right, welcome in. It is the Breer Report mailbag for December the 11th. I'm at the league meeting in Dallas. Actually, I'm at my hotel close to the league meeting in Dallas. That wraps up here today. We are headed into week 15, just 4 weeks left in the NFL season. Got a big one on Thursday night to kick things off between the Rams and Niners, pivotal game for two teams that have recently been to Super Bowls. And we're going to dive into your questions right here this morning. My first question is coming from Doug McCready. That's at DG McCready on Twitter. Do the Lions need to be the number one seed to make the Super Bowl? My answer to that question, Doug, would be no. Would it help? Yeah. I think that's one of the more difficult environments for any team to play in the NFL. I would tell you that over the years, with the new domes that have come in Minnesota and Dallas and Indianapolis, a lot of these places are so cavernous that they don't trap the sound the same way the old Metrodome did, or the old Silverdome did, or the old Hoosier Dome did, the RCA Dome, as it was known at the end. So, you don't have a lot of environments like that anymore. But I think Ford Field, because of the structure of it, because it's so tight, does get like that. It's a very, very loud environment. It can be an intimidating environment, and it's certainly a huge advantage. That said, this Detroit team is built to play in all conditions. They're built to win on the road. They're built to win on grass in the elements. They do not need to be in a sterile dome environment with their home crowd. Again, would it help? Yes, it would absolutely help. Do they need it to beat the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't think they need it to beat the Eagles. That doesn't mean the Eagles can't beat the Lions, but I think the Lions can go into Philadelphia and win a game on a given day. And what I mean when I say they're built to win in all conditions, in all weather, it's not just like some abstract toughness thing. It's because they're built through the lines of scrimmage. They're very sturdy up front. They will be sturdier as they get healthier on the defensive line. And everybody knows what their offensive line is with Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker and all of those guys up front. They've got an incredibly tough running game with two backs who can do just about everything in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And they're multiple on defense. And I think that matters in the elements because that can force mistakes. And what Aaron Glenn's been able to do with the versatile pieces he's got in the back end, and being able to morph to what he needs to be on a week-to-week basis, I think is really damn impressive. And so my answer to your question, Doug, would be no. That's taking nothing away from the advantage that they have playing in Detroit at Ford Field. I think that's a very real home field advantage. I think it's one of the top home field advantages in the league. But they're built in a way where they should be able to win in different conditions. Question number 2 is from Julian. That's at Julian Doucette 1. What is the general sense within the league on Travis Hunter? Wide receiver, corner, or genuinely play both? Let's start with the idea that he could play both. I think the idea he could play both, is he good enough? Yes. Is it the right thing for his team or for him personally to do it? I think that's where it's a little bit more of a gray area. Like everything I've heard about the kid, like he would challenge himself and want to do it. Like he wants to be the unicorn. That said, the idea of playing 130, 140 snaps in an NFL game, the wear and tear that would put in your body, where that would leave you at the end of the season, how that would affect the length of your career, I think those are all things you have to take into account when you become a professional. And so, do I think he can do it? Yeah, I think he can absolutely do it. Do I think he will do it? I think that's a serious discussion that he and his team are going to have to have. He and his team are going to have when he gets to the league. And most people I've talked to think, in all likelihood, the easiest path to take, at least in the beginning, will be full-time corner and moonlighting at receiver. Again, like he is at that level. Like I think he's a top 10 pick at both positions. Now, what teams at the top are going to have to ask is, how do we plan to use him? Right? If we see him as a receiver, how does he stack up with Tetero and McMillan? If you're just looking at him as a receiver in a vacuum, how does he stack up with Tetero and McMillan? Because if you're drafting receivers, I think that would be the question at the top of the draft. And then at corner, how does he stack up with Will Johnson from Michigan? I like at first I thought Will Johnson was hands down the best corner in the draft. the more I've talked to people, I think Travis Hunter might be at his level. I think Travis Hunter has long speed that Will Johnson doesn't. Travis Hunter's also been healthier than Will Johnson has. So, like, I think there's a good chance some team is going to look at him there at the top and say, you know what, we like him a little more than Will Johnson as a corner. So, like, let's bring him in and we can have him be our number one corner, and then we'll moonlight him at receiver, and we'll see what the way we'll see how that goes, and we'll come up with a plan. Again, I just think in the team's best interest, in the player's best interest, it's probably to come up with a plan that does not include him playing every single snap both ways. I don't think it'll be good for how he might hold up over the course of the season. He's supremely well conditioned. He's got incredible mental focus to be able to pull off what he's pulled off at Colorado. But I think the wear and tear of an NFL season can get to him where what do you have left when you get to the playoffs if you're putting that toll on your body? And then, again, over the years, the sort of toll it could take on you, I think that's a factor too in your decision making. If you're Travis Hunter on the team that's involved with if you're the team that drafts Travis Hunter. Finally, the third question for this week from Trips Traveler, that's Echo Cars 927. Who are the most desirable coordinators for a head coaching job besides Ben Johnson? Trips, thanks for the question. I think I can throw a few names at you off the top of my head. I don't have a list in front of me, so I'm just kind of doing this as best I can, just off of what my initial reaction to this question would be. I think the coordinator on the other side of the ball is way up there in Detroit. I think Aaron Glenn has a lot of the traits that Dan Campbell has. He's an ex-player. He can be a front of the room guy. He's been a galvanizing force. He really had to rebuild that defense. Like, he had I'd say a heavier lift than the guys on offense. Like, the previous regime left some pieces behind on offense. There was less on defense. And he had to ride out a couple of tough years and kind of keep guys engaged. So he had to do a lot of head coach type things. I think he's got a chance to be a really good head coach. Joe Brady in Buffalo, I think, is one to watch. He's done a nice job stabilizing things there for Josh Allen. He interviewed really well a couple of years ago. He has the experience having worked at the college game too, which I think is a plus because you have an idea of what challenges college kids are facing coming into the NFL. Real high on Joe Brady. I think he's got a chance. Some teams may view him as a year away. I think he's got a chance to get a head coaching job this offseason. Liam Cohen is another one in Tampa who has done a fantastic job with Baker Mayfield. I think he's somebody that you have to consider and look at. If you want to go like the retread route, I think Matt Nagy in Kansas City has done a really nice job the last couple of years. He's got Patrick Mahomes' trust. He's had to win with different types of groups. I think he's somebody who could get a second look. You see what happened to Chicago after he was gone. I think Matt Nagy could get a second look. I think Cliff Kingsbury could get a second look. He's shown himself to be a really good play caller and developer of quarterbacks in Washington. Obviously he has the experience. He took an Arizona team that was really bad within a couple of years to the playoffs. So I think Cliff deserves a second look after what he's done. So those would be some of the names. I'm sure I'm missing some, just again, because I'm going off the top of my head here. But those would be some names I would look at. And then, I think, if you go down the former head coach route, you have the guys who I think will be at the top of the list. Mike Vrabel will be the primary one when we're looking at where this is going to be in a couple of weeks. So appreciate you guys coming out. We will have another Breer Report for you on Friday morning. Big game on Thursday. Looking forward to Niners Rams. I know all of you guys are too. And we got a better Sunday, I would say, than last week with, of course, Bills Lions coming on Sunday. Looking forward to all of that, breaking it down with all of you. We'll see you guys again on Friday morning.